Matrix and welcome to Wazomatrix. My name is Luni and today we're focusing on your final exam prep for economics. All you need to do to send your questions and comments through to us is search for Wazomatrix on all social media platforms as well as our WhatsApp line. All of the details will be on the screen. We've got a cool competition going on for you guys, so please stay tuned to get all of those details later on in the show. I've got Pearl, our sign language interpreter, as well as Tando, our awesome teacher. Thank you so much, guys, and over to you.
Thank you, Luni. Welcome back, boys and girls, to another session where we are going to be having our final exam prep for paper 2. I'm going to be tackling possible questions that you guys can expect in your paper 2. Right, I'm going to start with our multiple choice questions. Our question is adapted from, okay, just be patient. It's adapted from our November 2019 paper 2 question. I'm going to be looking at the multiple choice question 1. Our first question says, a characteristic of monopolistic competitor is that they are, right, or is that they? Remember, boys and girls, when we speak of monopolistic, the monopolistic competitor, it is a combination or it's a hybrid structure where we have a perfect competition and also a monopoly. Please don't confuse the monopolistic and also the monopolist, right? A says is that they produce homogeneous product, right? Number B says is that they obtain economic profits in the long run. C says they've got full control over their price. And then D says they can easily enter and exit the market. So our answer there is D. They can easily enter and exit the market there. Right, let's move on to the next one. 1.12 says a social benefit is the sum of a private benefit and, let's look at A. A says it's the sum of a private benefit and an external benefit. Right, B says an internal benefit. C says a private cost. Then D says a marginal cost there. Right, so when we're speaking of a social benefit, we are looking at something that is going to be beneficial not only to the purchaser of a product, but also to the community as a whole. So our answer there is going to be a private benefit and also an external benefit there. So our answer is A for that one. Right, let's go to the next one. 1.13 says, the supply curve of the oligopolist competitor is. Remember, guys, when you get a question like this, you need to underline the keyword there. The keyword is supply. A lot of the learners might make a mistake there by defining the demand curve, because we have dealt with the demand curve quite a lot and we've tackled demand curve, but the question is not asking for a demand curve there. The question is asking for a supply curve. So let's look at our responses there. A says negatively, B says horizontally, C says positively, and then D says vertically. Right, so this is the supply curve, right? This is our supply curve there. And as you can see, boys and girls, our supply curve is positively sloped there. It's up, up, and down, down. So it's positively sloped there. Right, let's go to the next one. Question 1.14. It says, in any market, the average revenue is the same as the, right, in any market. So here it's a combination. You are looking at both our perfect market and also in the case of our imperfect market. What is our AR? Or our AR is the same as our what there? A says our price, B says our marginal revenue, C says the supply, then D says the profit. Right, the correct answer there is A. It's the same as our price. So our average revenue is the same as our price for all market structures then. Let's go to the next one. During stagflation, remember stagflation is a type of an inflation, so you need to remember the characteristics of stagflation. We said stagflation is a combination of high unemployment, low economic growth, and also high inflation there. So a country may experience or experiences low economic growth, and remember, I've already said you are expecting high unemployment and also high inflation there. So let's look for A says high employment, B says high unemployment, right? And then C says low inflation, and then D says limited development. Let me just stress, boys and girls, you need to be very careful about the wording or the way your words are structured in the exam. As you can see, A and B look almost similar there. It says high employment, and then B says high unemployment. Our answer in this case is high unemployment there. So look out for some tricks and some confusing wording there in your, especially in the multiple choice there. The same with C. C says low inflation. We are looking for high inflation there. Don't be confused there. Let's go to 1.16. The agreement to ban 12 of the most dangerous manufactured chemicals was addressed by. The agreement to ban 12 of the most dangerous manufactured chemicals was addressed by. A says the Basel Convention. B says the Stockholm Protocol. C says the Johannesburg Summit. Sometimes they call it the Johannesburg Earth Summit. D says the Kyoto Protocol. Boys and girls, especially when we are looking at our environmental sustainability, I encourage you guys to familiarize yourself with all the protocols and what was discussed in each one of them. You need to be very comfortable to know what was discussed in the Basel Convention, what was discussed in the Stockholm Protocol, what was discussed in the Johannesburg Earth Summit, and finally in the Kyoto Protocol. In this case, our answer is the Stockholm Protocol there. Right, and then question 7 says, which of the following is an example of an environmental World Heritage Site? Environmental World Heritage Site. Please, my keyword there, or your keyword there, is going to be environmental. Right, you are going to see that as we go, or as we look at the responses, you are going to be able to pick, for example, Robben Island is not an environmental one. Environmental World Heritage Sites, these are of environmental significance. Places that deal with probably our fauna and our flora there. So Robben Island is significant for historical, it's rich in history. This is where our former President Nelson Mandela was held. So it's got nothing to do with the environmental part of things. So always look out and underline your keyword there. So A says Sterkfontein Caves, B says Robben Island, C says Cape Fynbos region, and then D says the Fredford Dome. Our answer there is the Cape Fynbos region there. This is where we've got vast and very significant fauna and flora there. We've got a lot of that in that region. Right, let's continue to the last multiple choice question. It says natural resources are managed in such a way that it is available to present and future generations. Or when we are managing our natural resources in such a way that we leave some for future and we have some for present generations there. Our answer is A says preservation, these are the responses. B says pollution, C says renewal, and then D says conservation there. Again, a lot of us guys, we find it's difficult for us, or we confuse preservation and also conservation. When we are preserving, we are trying to keep and to maintain the environment in its current state in an unchanged manner. You are preserving. And then when you are conserving, you are using wisely. So our answer there is D there. So please look out again for the differences. It can come again as an 8-mark question typically to say, differentiate between conservation and preservation. So I need you guys to be alert on that one as you are revising. Please make sure you familiarize yourself with preservation and also conservation there. Right, this was our multiple choice questions. Very easy. Again, I encourage you, please do not leave multiple choice unanswered. Whatever you do in the exam, make sure you tackle that multiple choice. Don't leave it unattempted there. Right, I'm not going to do the mix and match. I'm going to move straight to our one word give a term. Remember what we've already discussed, boys and girls. We said in give a term, you cannot write acronyms there. You cannot write abbreviations in this one. And you are allowed to use one-word answers or a phrase for this one, depending on what the question requires there. Right, the first question says, a situation whereby our total revenue is equal to our total cost. So when our total revenue is equal to our total cost there, what are we experiencing? Remember what I said, as you are reading the question, the first answer that pops to your mind is probably the right answer there. I'm thinking of our break-even point there. I'm also thinking about our normal profit there. Right, now let's go and look at the answer. Right, oh, there is no solution there. So the answer there is going to be normal profit. Right, I would accept normal profit there. I would also accept break-even point. I would also accept break-even point there. It is the point where the business is not making a profit nor a loss there. So those are the two possible answers that you can give in that type of a question. Let's go to the next one. An imperfect market structure. So you already know you are talking about an imperfect market structure that makes a normal profit in the long run. An imperfect market structure that experiences a normal profit in the long run. We are obviously going to eliminate there a monopoly because that one experiences supernormal profit in the long run. The same goes for our oligopolies as well. They experience economic profit in the long run there. So we are only left with one market structure that experiences normal profit in the long run, and that is monopolistic there. Monopolistic competition. So it's monopolistic competition. That is the one that experiences normal profit in the long run there. Right, we continue to question 1.33. The period of time where at least one element or one of the factors of production remains fixed. The period of production where at least one of the factors of production remains fixed there. Right, our answer there is the short run. The short run, or I would also accept in the exam, or examiner is also accept short term there. Short term. Right. This is typically a very hot question, or one of the questions that they play around with in the exam. Either you are asked about the long run or you are asked about the short run. So I need you boys and girls to be very comfortable there with your definition of the short run or of the long run. Remember the definition of the long run, it is a period of time where all our factors of production are variable, or it is a period of time where all elements of costs are variable there. We do not have fixed cost in the long run. And in this case, you guys were asked for the short run there. We have at least one fixed cost in the short run there. So please be comfortable. You cannot lose those marks there in the exam. Let's go to the fourth question. It says people traveling to and staying in places outside their usual environment for not more than one consecutive year there. So we are looking at people that are traveling to and staying in places outside their usual environment for not more than one consecutive year there. Right, the answer is tourists. Tourists. Remember, when you are a tourist, you cannot exceed a year in a particular place there. Or I would also accept tourism there. So when you say tourist or tourism there, I would accept that one. Right, so the answer there, this one was straightforward. The answer is tourist or tourism. Let's go to our fifth question. It says the type of inflation that measures price changes for all final goods and services, not only those in selected basket there. Right, so it obviously eliminates some types of inflation that only look at selected baskets. So here you are looking at all final goods and services there. So this type of an inflation is called an all-inclusive inflation. It's called an all-inclusive inflation. So all-inclusive inflation, right, looks at all final goods and services, not just selected goods in the basket there, right? Remember again, revisit your inflation, a very important topic for the exam. Let's look at our last question for this segment. It says a license given to businesses allowing them to pollute up to a certain level, a license that is given to business that allows them to pollute up to a certain level there. The answer here is marketable permits. Marketable permits. Marketable permits there. Right. So that is our answer there. Again, I need you to remember with this type of a question again, if you are given a question as an explained question for more marks, for example, for 4 marks, discuss command and control in the exam, you need to be able to specifically explain that businesses are only allowed to permit to a certain level. And if their marketable permits for that particular period are used up, a business cannot continue producing. They have to either go and buy other marketable permits from other businesses, or they can borrow from other businesses as well, so that they can be able to continue producing there. Right, boys and girls, we are going to continue with our questions for paper 2, or typical questions that you guys can expect in paper 2. For now, let me hand over to Luni.
Thank you, Tando. Matrix, we are going to take a quick break, so please don't go anywhere. We'll see you straight after this. Welcome back from the break, Matrix. If you've just joined us, we are still doing your final exam prep to help you with the upcoming exams. If you're constantly running out of data, then this next competition is just for you. Wozo Matrix is bringing you the hashtag WozoWinner competition, where 2 lucky matriculants stand a chance to win 2 gigs of data. All you need to do to enter is head on over to our Facebook page, and all of the details will be there. Thank you so much, Tando, and over to you.
Thank you, Luni. Boys and girls, we are continuing with our session. We are now moving on to section B, and we are going to be looking at DBE November 2019, question 2. Right, we are going to be looking at question 2. Right, so it says, let me just go back. It says, study the graph below and answer the questions that follow. Let's go look at the graph. So there we are given a graph, and normally with graphs, the graphs come with a heading. This one says economic loss. As you can see, guys, from the graph there, this is our profit maximization E there, right? And this is our AR there. It's normally AR equals to D there, right? And straight down there, you look at our vertical axis, where there is our demand curve and our AR curve. This is our price there. And where our profit maximization line touches our AC there, that is our cost there. So this is our price, this is our cost, and that's our quantity there. That is typically our economic loss graph. Let's go look at the questions now. The first question says, identify the market structure in the graph. Identify the market structure depicted in the graph there. Let's go back and look at the graph one more time. There is our graph there. Right. Guys, because our demand curve is horizontal, as you can see there, guys, this means that this is a perfect market structure. Because our demand curve is horizontal, right, it means that it's our perfect market structure there. There is the answer. It says perfect market. In most cases, you need to be able to identify a market structure by given graphs there. So when you are given a graph, you need to have some idea or some defining item that makes you remember what kind of a market structure this is. In the case of this graph, because the demand curve is horizontal, you would know that it is a perfect market structure. If you were given, let's say, a demand curve like this, you would know that this is our oligopoly because of this demand curve. And again, if you are given a demand curve like this, then you would know that this is a monopoly because of the nature of the demand curve. So the demand curve of a monopoly, it is downward sloping, and then the one of an oligopoly, so I say this is oligopoly, and then this is monopoly. So that's how you identify your market structures there, right? Just keep that in mind, just in case you come across such a question in the exam. Right, now, let's go to the next question. It says give the value of the market price depicted. Give the value of the market price depicted. Let's go look at the graph again. There is our graph there. Remember what I said earlier on when we started? We said our MR is equals to our AR is equals to our P, which is also equals to our demand. So our P there is the same as the MR there for a perfect market structure. So what is our market price there? As you can see, guys, our market price there is 50, right? So our market price there is 50 there. As you can see, that is our answer for 1 mark. If the question had asked you guys for the cost, right, the cost is from the profit maximization all the way up where we touch the vertical axis or the cost and revenue function. This is our cost. Our cost in this case would be 90. Our cost in this case would be 90 there. Right. The next question says, how will this equilibrium, right, let me just enable, right, how will this equilibrium position change in the long run or in the long term there, right? How will this equilibrium position change in the long run or in the long term, right? So basically, in the long run, or the equilibrium position will be where total revenue is equals to total cost, and the business will be making normal profit. In the long run, the business, the equilibrium position will be where total revenue is equals to total cost, and the business will be making normal profit. Now let's just look at a diagram quickly to explain what we just discussed there. So we have there a diagram of a monopoly, of a perfect competitor making a loss or economic loss. Now we are being asked to explain what's going to happen in the long run. One of the things that I need you to remember, boys and girls, for a perfect competitor is a perfect competitor is a price taker. So it takes whatever prevailing market price from the industry and it takes it as their own. So it sells at whatever prevailing market price is set by the industry there. Now let's just check. So this is where we were. So this is our individual producer. This is our industry there. So our industry, it had agreed at a price, or the forces of demand and supply had said our equilibrium was sitting at 50 there, which means that this perfect competitor was selling its products at 50 as well there. So our D equals to P equals to AR, also equals to MR, was sitting at 50 there. Right. Basically, I'm reconstructing the graph quickly. Right, this is our profit maximization, and there was our AC there. Right. So from the equilibrium, we go down. That was 100. And then we go all the way up, and we had 90 there. So this was our loss area, according to the graph that we're discussing there. So what happens is, as a result of the losses that the individual producer is experiencing, right, other firms in the industry are going to exit the market. They are going to be demotivated by the losses that they are experiencing. So they are going to exit the market. When they exit the market, two things are going to happen. Number one, our supply curve is going to shift from S to S1 there. So when our supply curve shifts from S to S1, it means we are supplying less there. And the second thing that's going to happen is our price, or we have a new equilibrium, and our price is going to go up there. We have a new price, and typically they will exit up until our price is sitting at 90 there. So our price has gone up there. And since now we have got a new price at 90, the individual producer is a price taker. They are going now to have to take this new equilibrium price of 90. So they are going now to have to sell their product at 90 there. That is now 90 becomes our new price there. So as you can see, guys, we have a new price 90. So this becomes P1 equals to D1 equals to AR1. We now have to sell at this new equilibrium price. As you can see, boys and girls, our AC and our AR are now equal. So what does it mean? it means now that the perfect competitor is experiencing normal profit, right? So it means that the perfect competitor is experiencing normal profit. Boys and girls, the opposite is also true. If, for example, we had started by experiencing economic profits, the same was going to happen. Economic profits were going to attract new entrants into the industry again because there are no barriers to entry and exit. As more and more of them enter the market, right, our supply instead was going to go down from S probably to S2 there, and then up until eventually this perfect competitor is experiencing normal profit. So what is the conclusion, boys and girls? The conclusion is, in the long run, a perfect competitor will always experience normal profit. Whether you start by experiencing economic loss or you start by experiencing economic profit, in the long run, you will always experience normal profit there. So you need, guys, to familiarize yourself with this graph. If you can pause this, you can pause this and you can look at the graph once again, or you can look at your prescribed textbooks. Let them make you be familiar with this graph so that should it come in the exam, you are able to explain what is going on there. Right, so that is the explanation there. Let's move on to the next question. The question says, what conditions must exist for this firm to shut down? What conditions must exist for this firm to shut down there? Right, now, what is the shutdown point basically of a perfect competitor? You need to be able to explain it in word and also by means of a diagram. Let's look at our solution. A perfect competitor or the firm will shut down if it's unable to cover its average variable cost. So a firm or the perfect competitor will shut down if it's unable to cover its AVC there, or its average variable cost. Quickly, this is the diagram. You need to be able to draw as well the shutdown point. What is our shutdown point, people? For a perfect competitor, the shutdown point is the point where so this is our shutdown point, our point where our MC is equals to our AVC there. Right, so we will shut down if we are not able to cover our average variable cost. That is our shutdown there. Remember, guys, again, shutdown point is also a typical essay. You need to be able to explain it, right, by means of a graph and also by words. Be able to explain what is the shutdown point there. This is also a good typical question you can expect there, right? The next question, it says, calculate the economic loss faced by this firm. Calculate the economic loss that is faced by this firm there for 4 marks. Remember, if it's a calculate question, I need you boys and girls to show me the full steps, all the working and everything else, show me there. Don't just write the answer. A lot of you guys, you just punch in the numbers and get the answer there. Right, so economic loss equals to total revenue minus total cost. Right, how do we find total revenue? It's price times quantity bracketed. How do we find total cost? Again, it's price, or it's cost, let me use cost there, cost times quantity there. Right, from the graph there, our price is 50, we've already identified that. Our quantity is 100 in brackets. Remember to put brackets so that you don't get confused. And our cost there is 90, and our quantity is the same. It's still 100 there. If you say 50 times 100, you get 5,000 minus 9,000, and you are going to get a negative there. The negative denotes that you are getting a loss there. So remember, I said show me working so that you earn full marks. As you can see, there are steps. I'm not marking the final answer, but I am marking the steps as you go. Why do we do this, boys and girls? We do this just in case in the exam you make a mistake and you get the final answer wrong. You're still going to get some marks there because your working is still correct there. So always show working. Right. There are 2 ways you can approach this. There's another method of calculating. Let's look at the other method there. There is the graph still. The other method, or the alternative answer, says, right? Economic loss equals to AR minus AC times quantity there. Let's go back and identify, right? This is our AR there, where our MR is equals to AR, remember, right? Our AR is 50, our AC is 90. Can you see? Our profit maximization line where it touches AC there, that is our AC. And then our quantity function is 100 there, it's given. So you simply say AR less AC multiplied by quantity there. Now let's go. AR minus AC times quantity. Again, show working, right? So you get 50 less 90. We are substituting now, multiplied by 100. Remember to put brackets. And then you are going to get the answer as negative 4,000. The two methods should give you the same answer there. So whichever method, you don't have to do the two methods in the exam. Whatever you are comfortable with, right? You can use whatever method you're comfortable with there, right? That was our calculation for 4 marks typically in the exam. Very important marks that you cannot lose in the exam there, right? Let's go to our longer questions, the 8-mark questions there, right? These are very important. Remember, boys and girls, these are defining marks in the exam, right? These are what defines what you are going to get in the exam because they are longer and you get more marks for them, right? I'm going to cut it here before we go to our longer question. We are going to continue in the next segment.
Thank you, Tando. Matrix, let's take a quick break and then we'll see you straight after this. Welcome back from the break, Matrix. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to enter the competition so you can stand yourself a chance to win data. Thank you so much, Tando, and over to you.
Thank you, Luni. Welcome back, boys and girls, to the last segment of our revision session. Right, we are going to do our higher order questions, question 4.4 and also 4.5. I encourage you guys to stick around because before the end of the session, I'm going to give you guys typical essay questions that you can expect in your paper 2 exam. Let's look at the first question. It says, briefly discuss productive inefficiency and allocative inefficiency in terms of market failure. So you are asked here to discuss productive inefficiency and also allocative inefficiency in terms of market failure there. For this type of a question, boys and girls, you need to make sure that you give a balanced response. Make sure you tackle productive inefficiency and also tackle allocative inefficiency. If you just tackle one, you are only going to get part marks. You are not going to get full. So make sure you attempt both productive and allocative there. All right, let's start by looking at productive inefficiency. Productive inefficiency, this is when businesses do not maximize output from given inputs there. So basically, this is when a business is experiencing a wastage there. So when there is wastage of resources in terms of production there. Again, let's look at another point. It says a business does not produce goods at the lowest possible cost. So when we are experiencing high production costs there, that is productive inefficiency. And then the next point says there is room to reduce costs without producing fewer goods or without producing a lower quality good. So basically with productive inefficiency, what it means is you can be able as a business to lower your productive cost per unit, number one, without compromising on quality, and also secondly, without reducing the quantity of the goods that you are producing there. So that is productive inefficiency. Now let's go look at allocative inefficiency. When we speak of allocative inefficiency, it is when the product mix does not reflect consumers' tastes or what consumers are desiring, or the product mix does not meet the demand of consumers there. For example, let's say the people in a particular economy are desiring more of product A, but when we are supplying them with more of product B there, the people are demanding, let's say, schools, and maybe we provide them with stadiums, for example. That is allocative inefficiency there. We are not allocating the product that meets consumers' tastes and preferences there. Right? Number two, it says businesses are allocated resources inefficiently and produce goods and services that consumers do not want there. So when the resources are allocated inefficiently there, and at the end of the day, we end up producing goods and services that do not meet consumer needs and wants there. Then finally, we can talk about the quantities required by the consumers are not available. So the quantities of the products that we require as consumers are not available there. That is allocative inefficiency there. Like I said, guys, you would be given a maximum of 4 for this particular segment, just for allocative inefficiency, and you also get a maximum of 4 for productive inefficiency there. So make sure that your response is balanced for this type of questions there. A good starting point would be probably to draw. You can draw a T or a table, and then you explain your points separately. You have your allocative inefficiency on this side, your productive inefficiency on this side, and then you draw your comparisons and you explain them typically, so that you are able to keep track of what you have explained and what you haven't explained them. All right, let's go to the next question. It says, evaluate the impact of imperfect competition on consumers. Evaluate the impact of imperfect competition to consumers. Again, it's another 8 marks. Remember, I said 8-mark questions are very important, as they are crucial in you obtaining maximum points in the exam there. So if it's an evaluate question in the exam, you need to give successes and failures there. You need also to outline the positives and the negatives there. Or you can also explain the good and the bad there. Then at the end, you need to be able to draw a conclusion of whatever your conclusion is. There is no typical right or wrong answer there, as long as you are able to support your point, or you are able to support your answer with valid points there. So this is an evaluate the impact of imperfect competition on consumers there. Let's go look at the possible solution. We have got, let's start with the negative impact, like I said. Right, let's look at the negative impact. Let me go back to the question. Evaluate the impact of imperfect competition on consumers there. It's very important that you highlight the impact to consumers there, right? It says, most businesses operating in imperfect markets maximize profits by supplying less and the optimal quantity of goods and services produced, which means that some consumers' needs may not be met there. So for imperfect markets, in most cases, you would find in order for them to maximize profits, they produce less. And at the end of the day, some consumers' needs may not be met there. That is the first point. Second point, reduced quantities lead to higher prices, which may exclude lower income groups there. Right, so that's the second one. Imperfect markets normally charge higher prices. Let's go to the third one. It says new businesses sometimes are prevented from entering the industry. Thereby, it limits competition. There is a limit of competition, and it prevents consumers from enjoying lower prices and also a variety of goods and services there. So again, as a result of preventing of new businesses there is limited choice for consumers and prices are usually higher. Let's look at the fourth one. Collusion, which is normally rife in oligopoly markets, results in higher prices, which at times prevents some consumers from affording the product there. So when we speak of collusion there, this is when 2 or more of the businesses, they come together, they limit quantity, and they increase the price there. Again, they are taking advantage of consumers, like I've already said there. Let's continue. We're still looking at our negative impact. It says consumers pay higher prices in the imperfect markets due to the fact that production does not take place at the lowest point of the long-run average cost curve there. That is our LAC there, at the lowest point of our LAC there. Right, so normally, again, we're still explaining the higher prices there. To say imperfect markets or consumers normally pay higher there, because these guys are not efficient in terms of production there. Those are some of the negative effects. Like I said earlier on, remember, if you are discussing the negative and the positive, make sure you also give a balanced view there. Right, let's go to the next one. Now we are looking at positive impacts. Right, now we are looking at positive impacts. Right, the first one says imperfect markets can stabilize supply, especially or output of certain goods and services that require a vast amount of capital, ensuring a variety of goods and services is available to consumers. Right, in most cases you would find that our oligopolies and our monopolies are big businesses with a big capital base, hence they are able to provide goods and services that small businesses might not be able to produce there. This gives a variety to our consumers. Again, let's look at the second one. It says imperfect markets also provide a better quality of product to consumers. Large corporations have got research and development units that constantly develop new technology and improved production methods there. So these guys are able to provide better quality there. That's another positive there. Let's go to the third one. Patent rights give patent holders exclusive rights to produce products, and this stimulates innovation and inventions there that could benefit consumers there. So there is continuous improvement because these guys have got patent rights there, so they've got the exclusive right to manufacture certain goods and services. I can give you an example of our cell phone manufacturers there. There is continuous improvement in terms of their product offering there. They continuously upgrade their product to consumers, so this benefits consumers. And then finally, that is that, guys. So basically, this is how you approach an 8-mark question, especially if it's an evaluate. Right, before I go, boys and girls, I need to just explain quickly to you guys that you need to be comfortable with the typical essay questions that you can expect in your final exams, especially as far as paper 2 is concerned. Remember, there is a lot of drawing you can expect in your paper 2. So I encourage you, boys and girls, to be very comfortable with your graphs, right? For example, remember the equilibrium position of a perfect market is a typical graph that you can expect in the final exam. So you need to be able to explain your normal profit, your economic profit, your normal loss in the case of a perfect market. You also need to be able to explain the supply curve and the shutdown point of a perfect market. You also need to be able to explain the profit maximization in the case of a perfect market there. Right, again, when it comes to imperfect markets, you need to be able to explain the kinked demand curve of an oligopoly. You also need to be able to explain the various equilibrium positions of imperfect markets there. Draw similarities with a perfect market where you can, and also show differences with a perfect market where you can there. Another hot question, especially in terms of drawing differences there or showing differences, is they normally ask you, why is it that the MR lies below the AR, especially in a monopoly graph there? You need to be able, and you need to be comfortable there. Again, for an essay, you need also to be able to compare between a perfect market and any imperfect market structure there. So be able to explain by means of words, right, the differences between a perfect market and any other imperfect market structure. Right, finally, you also need to be able to explain market failure, reasons for market failure, and also effects of market failure. Where you need to draw the graphs, remember to draw. I encourage you guys, make sure you've got an eraser in the exam, you've got a pencil in the exam, especially for paper 2, and also you've got a calculator, so that when it be, you are able to draw the correct graphs there. Just before I go, boys and girls, remember the night of the exam, go to bed early so that you get enough rest. Read instructions carefully. You need to read your instructions carefully. Know how many questions you need to answer per section there. Manage your time. This is very important. Not only are you tested for content in the exam, but you are also tested for time. I wish you, boys and girls, nothing but the best. I hope you produce to the best of your abilities. Over to you, Luni.
Thank you, Tando. Matrix, we're wishing you everything of the best for your exams. Don't forget to use our study resources to help you prepare. Send us your questions and comments so that we can assist you as best as we can. Congratulations to all of the competition winners who will be announced on Facebook after the show. For our schedule and study resources, visit www.wasamatrix.co.za. And if you missed any of our lessons, please check them out on our YouTube channel. From me, Luni, Pearl, and Tando, thank you and goodbye.
Matric class of 2020, congratulations for being so brave, so committed, and for staying the course during one of the most difficult years in our history. We're here to support you all the way. Our Woza Matric campaign was set up to support you up until the 8th of December 2020. We are offering you interactive exam guides, shows on SABC3, DSTV, Catch Up, and OVHD Channel 122 that are not to be missed. I wish you all the best in your final exams. You are the hope and the future of our country, and we're so proud of you for coming this far. No matter the outcome, you are at the finish line. Now give it your very, very best. And I thank you.
Hi guys, in this session we're going to be talking about goal setting, and I have got Paul and I've got Hannah and I've got Renilwe with me. So goal setting, we want to talk about how do you set your goals and how to look at the bigger picture for setting your goals. We're looking at a creative way because sometimes it can be really boring, so that's what we're looking at. And what, first of all, are the main points when setting goals? It's two things. It's vision and goal setting. Vision is a picture of the preferred future. So we are looking at what is our preferred future we're working towards, and goals are the steps to get you there. You got that?
Yeah, we got it.
So I've got the team to help me with something today. Come.
Yeah.
So we're going to teach you something that you can use for literally the rest of your life. This question, we're going to call it the big question.
What is the big question?
Okay, all right.
What
the
is
big
the
question?
big question?
So the big question you have to ask yourself in every area of your life. Now, in your studies, your career, your future, when you're married one day, when you're an old lady and an old man, ask the big question. So what is the big question? So we're going, considering my past experience, current circumstances, and my future hopes and dreams.
What is the wise thing to do? What is the wise thing to do?
What is the wise thing to do?
What is?
So we've got to remember it's past, current, future. What is the wise thing to do? Keep that for your goals. Okay, let's see. Renilwe, I know that you've got a student's poster over here, and I'd like to see what your student has done. Very interesting vision board, quite busy, very creative. Take us through this vision of the preferred future that the student has.
One of my students made a very creative vision board using a bridge. Looking at the past experiences, rejection, and looking at matric. Now where she is currently, she's on the current on-ramp, currently owing school fees and using public transport. Now looking at the future, hopes and dreams. She hopes one day to have a retirement plan, provide her family, and have a car. What is the wise thing to do? She asked herself that question. Now she must make most of her time, healthy lifestyle, and saving.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay, so that was really cool. Thank you. Very creative. Now we're looking at different types of vision boards, different ways to do them that can inspire you. Your vision board, you can stick up on your roof above your bed. You can stick it up on your cupboard, on your window, in your passage, wherever it is, on your door, behind your door. Stick it somewhere where you are able to keep that vision in front of you all the time to motivate yourself. So, Hannah, you've done one for us.
Okay.
Let's see what you got.
All right. So, thank you, Renee, for the help. So, my vision board is a lot less busy than that one, but that's just the way in which I think, that's the way in which I am able to process information. So, what I've done is I've created a vision board that suits my learning style the best. So, what I've done is I've put all of my goals in a monthly basis. Because for me, I always need the time. And so this for me is really helpful because every month I get a step back and look at exactly what needs to be done for the month. What's great for me with this is that if anything changes in a month, I'm still okay. I still have the bigger picture. I still have my vision at heart.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, done very differently, and you've got public holidays there, so you know
I
exactly
do,
when you're off.
I do, and I've got my birthday as well because I have to make time for my birthday.
Yes.
And that's part of it.
Paul, let's see. I think this is a student of yours.
This is a student of mine. She made a road which was very, very interesting for me. Because now, metaphorically, we all know that roads are bumpy. And you know, the start of her vision board is when you choose the right subject, is when you get connected with what you really, really love. So she wanted to be a hotel manager. She aspires that. So this is the road that she creates. She can get there to become a manager in the simplest way, which she can take, getting to varsity, making sure that maybe she studies, she gets an internship, but now she can also take the long way to get to varsity, meaning she can have an internship, volunteer, do some couple of works, and be able to pay varsity fees if she can, and then she can be able to apply. But where there is smoke, there is fire. You need to watch out for all this negligence that may stray you out of the road. So make sure the road is tight and you can see the vision and your dream. When you get it, it's obviously she wanted to become a hotel manager. The dream job was there, but there are also possibilities of the road. It doesn't end. You can see it continues. It continues.
That's really great. Okay, so these are examples of very, very different goal setting opportunities and vision boards. So we want to encourage you to do your own vision board.
Yeah.
And please remember, how do you start? Sit down and write, considering my past experience. Thinking about what I've done in the past. What's my current circumstances?
Current.
And what are my future hopes and dreams? What's the wise thing to do? Ask yourself the question.
Yeah, and it's the biggest question.
It's a big one.